So here's another oldie classic plumbing video for you, done a few years back. Still relevant today though. Today we're going to be looking at these things, taps again, and it's getting the tops off them without marking them. Now I've got this old one from a garage, it's already been badly marked and knocked about, but this is just to show you the problems that we're getting. Now the kind of thing that's happening is a couple of pictures that I've had sent through from one of my subscribers here. So I'll show you the pictures on my computer first to explain quite what is happening. Here we are then, this is the kind of thing that is happening. I have to say thanks to Don there for letting me use his pictures, and as you can see the brass is worn away on the shoulders where the spanner has been relentlessly pulled to try and undo it, and obviously in a basin it's not much room to pull the spanner around anyway. On top of that, the tap tries to turn with you when you do it as well, so it leaves you in a real predicament, especially when it ends up like that and you've got no shaft now for the spanner to latch onto. I'll show you another picture. You can see again quite how badly worn that tap is. So I'll show you a picture of the taps that Don was trying to get these lids off of, if you like. We call them lids, but they're the brass tops. There's the taps that Don has, and as you can see they're going to be tight to the wall, so there's not much room for a spanner to move, and as you move the spanner around you're going to hit that spout, so there's not much to latch onto. That plus the angle it's coming out at like this means that the spanner room that you can get that on is only a tiny bit of the actual brass shank there, so obviously in the end you're going to round that off like what's happened there. So there's not many things you can do, but there are some tools that may get them off for you. We'll show you them and go through it now with the tap that I've got, which isn't these, but I'm just going to use it as a demonstration for you. So here we have just an ordinary little bib tap, but the same sort of system inside. Don't worry about mixers or anything like that. The same kind of thing is going to be with a mixer or this as regards getting the tops off. On this particular one, this one has a screw even on this part here, has got to come off, so you're going to need a good tool for that. That doesn't slip, like pliers or that. They're no good, they won't go wide enough. See, these are a really good tool for getting the top off. These are called water pump pliers, and you can adjust the jaws like so. When you've got them about right, you know that you can get there on there and get that nut undone. Okay, there it goes. So it's simple with the right tools. Okay, and this is the essence of the job, the right tools. They're called water pump pliers. Underneath there you will then find a screw in there, you can see that, and we'll undo that, and then this head should come off. Now these tops, sometimes they're really hard to pull off. If they are, I'm afraid that's when you get the trusty hammer and give it a tap under there. Now if you're worried about marking it, this is where you need a bit of cloth like so under there and give it a tap up. It's awkward, it's a hassle, but it has to be done. But if they're tight, you just tap gently, turn the tap around another notch, give it a tap, turn it around another notch, give it a tap. Just do it gently, gradually. If you like, you can spray some WD-40 down there, which really helps get these tops off if you've got this type of arrangement. Plenty of that lubricant on everything, it will help. And just keep tapping. Once you do that, it will eventually come away and leave you with that. Now, these little caps, if you've got them, can also be really tight. Now this one, you can see it's got some burrs and marks on it where it's already been tried to get off, because if you just get a pair of grips, now I'm going to show you these very useful tools called footprints, and people have just gone like this. You put it straight on the chrome and it will force it to undo, but it will leave marks. So once again, a cloth of some sort of description around there, and then put your grips on, okay, and then undo it. But don't try and, if you don't want marks, don't just put it on bare like that. It will mark it. Now again, with that, funny thing that can happen here, it can be really tight. If you can break the seal that's around there of muck, then just a little light tap with a hammer, not to mark it, just gently, right the way around it, can break that seal. And once that seal is broken, then it will go easily. And it's just, I'm not going to bother the clock, it's an old tap, but it will just go straight away like that. Very simple, gone. and that's if you've got that sort of cover. Okay, these little plastic covers. That leads us now to the part we're looking at that Don showed us with his taps, and this is why I'm saying it doesn't matter I'm showing you this tap or you've got mixers, because they all basically got these horrible bodies that are machined into these taps so tight that I have actually come across one where I had to saw it through there, drill it through like Don's probably suggesting he does with his tap now because he's given up, and then pulled it all out in bits and pieces and bought obviously a couple of new heads for the other tap as well. Might as well match it up. So but if you don't if you don't want to do all that, you could try your best with the right tools to get it out first, but obviously when you've gone that far you might as well go and get a set of new taps and save yourself a lot of hassle. But if you really love the taps you've got and you don't want to change them like on there, then obviously you're going to go to the nth degree to get that out of there. Now if you look there you can see where some spanner marks have already had a go at it there, alright, I mean shiny, to get this off. So this is what people normally use, and it is the recommended tool, a spanner, a good fitting spanner, and one that's a decent quality. If you've got one with a lot of slack in that jaw, it will slip. If it slips, that's when you start to get this come about, this sliding on the brass. Now the trouble is the brass on these is not very well made. It is soft and it's not really good and hard and durable, which is why this sort of thing happens all the time, because they're so poor quality that they just slip, and once it starts to happen you get the trouble. So first of all, obviously do try a good spanner. I always use an adjustable, but if you've got one that fits exactly and you've got a motorist car kit, well even better, but I know that most of you won't have those sort of tools. So if you just got one really decent spanner, it's worth going. I've got lots of tools in my shop, my YouTube, my Amazon shop I should say, sorry, with a link that does under the right tools that I recommend. So if you want to buy anything, do go there and have a look. Plus I get 5% of everything you buy. Wow. You rocked me out all no end. Okay, so let's have a look. Get this nice and tight on here. Now look, once you've got that spanner on there locked tight, that's a really tight fit, I can see it is. Now when you go to turn this, especially if it's in a wash basin, I mean if it's in a sink it won't matter if it's in a mixer because it won't move, you won't have to hold it. But if you've got taps that move around like this, it will move around. Again, if you've got a mixer in a basin and it's solid through, it's 2 holes, it will try and turn. It will still try and work like this because usually they're 1 hole mixer and there's just a bolt through the bottom holding it and it will try to turn. But if it's just a double tap with 2 holes but it's a mixer, then it won't, and you can just put the spanner on because you'll have 1 hole through there, 1 hole through there. It would only be if you really had to massacre it that you know it would possibly crack the basin. You put too much on it, so you've got to be careful if it's a wash basin one. Now look, what you do here, if you've got this here, and these are my trusty footprints, you normally have to hold against, but obviously that's going to mark the end of that tap. So once again you get a trusty piece of cloth and you put it over the end. Okay, then you get your footprints on the end. I know it looks a bit of a muck up here, but then you get that like that, get your spanner and then turn it and then like that, and it won't then mark the end of your tap because that's what we don't want to do. So do remember that, and once you've got that off, well, you've got it off. Okay, so we're going to go to the next stage, which is what happens if the spanner keeps slipping. So I'm going to tighten it back in. If it keeps on going around there and the head's gone, so there's nothing for the spanner to get onto, what we're going to do then. Of course, last desperation again, there's also the use of a blowtorch on there. Put it on exactly where that joint is on the seal, but not recommended, and if you do use it, not too hot. Please bear in mind it might crack the basin. I'm not going to be responsible for that if you're getting it out of a basin, but again, probably last resort again. This is where other tools come into use. Now these, good possibility, these grips, they are quite good and they can get them off, because what we're saying here is that the top of this is rounded off. So pretend that's rounded off, you need to get a grip on just the barrel if you like. It's just you're not actually got a nut, you've not got a square, so you can grip it with those and put it together and undo it, because it's got a grip, but they're not that strong. So you've got to remember they are good, but on a rounded piece of brass they might still just slip like so, just go, you know, and still not have enough grip. But get a good set and they won't, they'll stay on. So once again, I've got those in my plumber store, Amazon. My favourite though is these, the Stillsons, because if that's rounded off, these will grip any rounded object. I know these are an old-fashioned tool, Stillsons. They're, you know, you don't see them about much these days. This is a size 10. If you want smaller, size 8 are even more convenient for getting into tight little spaces where you haven't got a lot of room to take that top off. And once again, these will grip, because even if that's rounded off, they will bite into the brass and undo it. Okay. Now another little tip as well, sometimes even when you're trying that and it won't go, is just to give the thing a little tap with a hammer to shock it, so that when it's on there, get a hold of the other end, make sure it doesn't swing round, of course, and then just give it a gentle tap, because sometimes that will just crack the seal. Again, put plenty of WD-40 all round it, do what you can that way on, and give that a knock, and it may shift it. Once it's broken, that seal that's been made in there when the factory made the things and probably tightened it in so tight, you think, what the hell, you know, it's never coming out. Once you've broken that seal, it will remove. I mean, I've even got one set out using one of these basin spanners, because again, you've got jaws like this, and leverage is all that counts again. Once again, these will kind of bite on the brass because they've got teeth either side, and then you can pull this out. You've got a long lever to turn it. Now, so with basin taps, unfortunately, there's not much room when they're up against the wall, but then at least with this, you could come down from the top, like so. I'll show you that there. If you were above it, you could come down that way. This is a basin spanner. It's primarily used to get taps out of sinks. Good for taking it out when you want to get rid of it, because you can't get it off. So double use for that one. My old favourite, of course, is footprints, but I have found that these do slide on the brass. They do tend to just let go easily. I mean, I really like these little thumbprint ones. You know, they are very handy. These are a size 8, and they're very good for getting a grip on there and getting that off. Okay, but that really is about it. They're the kind of tools you need, and you really do need good quality stuff, all right, to get these off. Try messing about with cheap tools, you're never going to get it off, all right? So do have the proper gear, and once it's off, you'll look at it and go, how am I going to get that washer off of there? And once again, it's hassle all the way of old tap. As you can see, that's a nut on there. Spray it all with WD, and once again, get a nice tight fitting spanner, something like that. You can actually get that on the end of there and get a tight grip on it. Clean it all off, and then you can undo that. It will spin off. That little washer's tight as anything to get out. I will warn you that. They always are. So once you've got all that, then got the right washer on there, and you can put it all back in. But as I say, you can actually buy the heads, just these part as well. So if you don't want to bother all that, and you've got that out, you can change that, especially if you've had to do what Don's going to do, which is cut through it. If you imagine he's going to cut through there, and then he's going to drill holes through it and get it all out in bits, if it were. So it's got quite a job on his hand. It is a hassle job. So, but if you really love the tap, then you know it's worth it to you. But that's the grief you've got just to get to that, all right, and to do it. So a little bit of grief. But there we are. That's it. I just wanted to go through that one, because it kind of highlighted to me the other day, as I say, when Don sent me that, and I thought, actually that would probably make a video that would possibly help you out in times of crisis with taps, because we know how they go, don't we? And we do know that these particular taps have a tendency to shut themselves down, where you've got to take the circlip off and refit them because the water's running very slow out the end. That also is a problem with these particular tops. But there we go. That's another story. Okay, that's about it though. So usual place for all my stuff. Thanks very much for watching, guys. Catch you again soon.
For our videos, Derrickson 33.